Hi, this is Matthew Robert Payne, and this is a video called Visiting Rahab in Heaven. We'll start off this video, this chapter explaining what I can see in Rahab's house, and I can see her kitchen. There's a walk-in fridge. You can walk in and see cold meats and pineapple and cherry tomatoes and different fruits and vegetables, apples, oranges, pears, bananas. Bananas, I wouldn't think it should be in the fridge, but they're in the fridge. So we're backing out of the fridge now, and there's a walk-in pantry with different materials and stuff there. The coming out of the pantry, there's a flat bench that runs really long. It's about 10 feet long. And it's got a couple of benchtop stoves in the middle of it, and it's got ovens on the wall behind it, and it has extendable parts to it. It can be extended. The bench can be extended upwards at the end of the bench, so more workers can come and work in the kitchen. It's got like a 20-seat table in the dining room, and there's a picture of Jesus in the dining room. He's feeding the 5,000. It's got a picture of Jesus and his disciples handing out the bread. It's a really big image on the dining room wall, and it really suits Rahab with what she does. If you've read Great Cloud of Witnesses Speak, you'd know what Rahab does. But if you haven't read that, you wouldn't be aware of what she does in heaven, and we're going to cover that next. The dining room table hasn't got revolving pictures on it like the Apostle Peter's has, but it has got images in the table, and there are different pictures out of Rahab's former life. And she's very pretty, actually, and the images out of her life on earth. One of them is taken, picture is in when she lived in Jericho, but the rest with the tribes of Israel and what she's doing, and she's doing her job with the tribes of Israel. So we'll go on to the next question. What are you doing in heaven? So Rahab says, I'm a chef in heaven, Matthew, and I've run a couple of restaurants, 3 restaurants, and I manage my time between each of them, 6 days a week. We're closed on the Sabbath. We have a Sabbath in heaven. And you can imagine we don't have earthly time in heaven, but 6 days out of 7, I manage my restaurants to have a day off, and the restaurants are closed. And different people operate on different days. So the day my restaurants are closed, other restaurants are open. So we don't have a Sabbath. I just keep a Sabbath personally. I just work 6 days. And I really enjoy my work. I've taken the time to study in these 2,000 years, and I've learned every cuisine that's possible. I've learned how to cook Indian curries and Singapore noodles and Thai curries and Thai dishes. And so my restaurants have different sorts of food in them, and I enjoy cooking for people. I spend an amazing amount of time in my restaurants talking to the customers outside of the kitchen. I'm very sociable, and people love to meet me. I've got like a balance of about 60-40 when it comes to returning customers and new customers. 60% of my customers are returning customers, and 40% are new each week, each day. The 40% get surprised that I come out of the kitchen and speak to them. And the 60% are regular customers. They love my company. They love meeting with me, and I'm like family to them. And I spend quite a bit of my time speaking to them and getting to know their life and helping them grow in the things of the Lord. I have chefs in my restaurant and servers who serve and bring the food out. I have staff that are happy to be staff. I've got a second in charge or a head chef in each restaurant, and they learn to speak to the customers too. And so I'm not the only one who speaks to the customers. Each chef in charge of each of the restaurants spends his time on the floor, some of his time on the floor, speaking to customers. I'm a woman chef, and my head chefs in my restaurants are men. And I've got subsidiary chefs coming up and advancing in my restaurants that are women also. But I'm a woman in charge, and men are just really good in the kitchen. I've found as professional chefs, they're very diligent. I enjoy I enjoy cooking. I enjoy the feeling it brings to people. It's good to talk to a person and get their feedback when they've eaten a dish of yours. And it's good to talk to them while they're eating the dish that you prepared. We revolve the menus in my restaurants, and one of my restaurants has dishes, the best of dishes, and they're the best dishes of the 3 restaurants have cooked. And so the restaurant is called the Best of Rahab, and you can go to that restaurant rather than any of the 3 restaurants and get a dish on the menu that's one of the favorites of the people that have eaten at my restaurants. They vote on dishes and give us feedback on dishes. And as dishes become a favorite, they start to get shared in that restaurant. So as you can see, if you're following this series, if you're reading these books, heaven has a lot of feedback built into it. You can be voted the #1 restaurant in heaven. You can be voted the best cuisine in heaven. Your dishes, individual dishes, can be voted the best. Spaghetti bolognese in heaven. Your chefs can be voted best chef. So there's competitions and there's feedback on everything that we do in heaven, and it keeps you sharp, it keeps you motivated, it keeps you going on day after day. We put an emphasis on doing our best and presenting the best meal that we can each time. Every meal that comes up is a part of perfection, and we don't concentrate too much on the rewards that happens with the customers and the votes that they put on. But my restaurants have won best restaurant from time to time, and the chefs have won, and our individual dishes have won best cuisine, best dish. Our cuisines have won best cuisine. So competitions aren't everything in heaven, but they just keep things exciting and novel. One of the chefs could put a different ingredient in one of the dishes because he's tried it out on himself and he thinks it's nice. And you may be surprised that that dish gets voted the best dish of the restaurant by the customers, and then you're onto something good. I like to feed people and keep them well fed and happy, and you can be sure when you come to heaven that there's going to be enough food for everyone. You won't just come to my restaurants, you'll try different restaurants. There's restaurants with a whole cuisine, like there's a Singapore restaurant, there's an Chinese restaurants, there's Indian restaurants, there's Italian restaurants. We have multi-cuisines in our restaurants, but that's the way we like to cater to people, giving them variety. So that's the answer I have to that question. What do you like about heaven? I, at the risk of sounding repetitive with all these saints that have been speaking, I truly enjoy people. I enjoy talking to people and spending time with people. Everyone in heaven is on their own personal spiritual journey, and everyone in heaven is growing, and I like to know about that growth. I like to converse with people and find out what they're up to and how they're progressing. I've got a deep spiritual faith and an intimate walk with Jesus and God the Father, and I didn't have a good father when I was growing up, and so I relate more to God. I spend a lot of time in God's presence, and with Him individually, and He's a real father to me, and I really enjoy His presence. I enjoy speaking to Him one-on-one. I enjoy the worship in heaven each earthly week, each time heaven has the competitions, the fifth song to the first song voted songs, those days of worship where the competition winners are playing their worship. I attend the throne room for those worship meetings, for those concerts, and I really enjoy it. Everyone gets a chance to meet the Father and sit next to Him or sit on His lap and converse with Him. He's been really good to me. He's really brought out my strengths. I do meet up with Jesus once a week, like everyone does, and everyone grows and gets set assignments by Jesus. But most days I pop in and spend some time with the Father. It's a real honor to be loved by a father, and to have God as your father, and He really is a father to me. It's a new dimension that you can walk in when you recognize God as your father, and He speaks to you as a father, and He relates to you as your father. And I've got that relationship with Him where He's my father, and He looks out for me, and He encourages me. And I've really grown in heaven to become very close to God. I move in the gift of prophecy, and you may wonder if prophecy exists in heaven, and of course it does. Anyone can speak on behalf of God, and oftentimes when I'm talking to a customer, I'll just say, and God wants you to know this, and I'll say something prophetically to them, and often it ends in tears, and the people are really touched. Matthew prophesies normally in Jesus' voice, and it's the voice of Jesus that comes through Matthew in prophecy, whereas when I prophesy, it's the Father who speaks, and he comforts people and gives them direction and comfort. So prophecy definitely exists in heaven. People people have seen their future in heaven, and you can watch your future on a big screen in heaven and watch it like a movie. But people tend to forget their future. They tend to forget what they're going to achieve, and so prophecy really ignites that. And so I enjoy prophesying. I enjoy people. I enjoy speaking to people and mixing with people, and I enjoy the Father. I really like my interaction with him, and it's a real blessing. And I enjoy Jesus, but you'll find because Matthew is closest to Jesus, you'll find in this series of books Jesus mentioned more than the Father. But that's not because the Father isn't special to Matthew, it's just that Jesus is closer. And he really is the center of heaven, and he's dear to everyone, and he really shines and stands out. And so the Father wouldn't have it any other way. He's given all authority to his Son. And so Jesus is really the superstar of heaven. And so it's natural that the saints talk about him, but it's God of Israel that I come to love when the Israelites saved me and took me in from Jericho. I become the chef, become the cook in Israel, and I've been a cook ever since. Better than being a prostitute, I can tell you. It's similar. Speaking to customers in my restaurant is similar to my life as a prostitute. I used to speak to my clients and have in-depth conversations with them. So it's just the undressing and the sexual part that is different. Otherwise, I'm a real people person, and people really enjoy me. What is your message for us? At the risk of repeating repeating others, it's really important for you to come to know Jesus. It's whether it's Jesus or the Father, one part of the Godhead, either the Father or Jesus. It's important for you to develop intimacy with either God or Jesus. It's just so important. It's just such an important part of life. And as you come to know God more, the scriptures will mean more to you. Life will open up, and there'll be more opportunities in life, and there'll be more times where you can praise God and be happy. I'm not saying that drawing close to the Father is just going to bring your life into a state of happiness, because some people really suffer and have terrible lives and hard lives. But being close to the Father will give you perspective and give you comfort. And I encourage you all to learn how to hear from God. Matthew's got a book on how to hear from God, and I encourage you all to learn how to hear God speak and how to hear Jesus speak. So much benefit and reward can come to your life if you can hear God speak, if you can hear Jesus speak. They just add a dimension. It's like if you are married and your wife never spoke to you, it would be okay if you entered into a marriage and your wife couldn't speak and she just did sign language. You'd be entering into a marriage where you understand that your wife doesn't speak. But if your wife was, if you married a woman and she just didn't speak in the marriage, it would be a hard marriage to maintain. And the same is true in the Christian life. You just speaking one way to God and God not speaking back to you. It's a faulty relationship, and it's a weak relationship. And God has so much to say. He's got so much to share with you and so much to encourage you. He doesn't just speak through prophets. He speaks personally and can encourage you in your daily life. And he's got such an interest in you. And I encourage you to learn how to hear from him and how to dialogue. I encourage you all to begin by starting a journal and writing to God and listening and asking him questions and listening for his answers and dialoguing with God. And you can do the same with Jesus, or you can choose Jesus or God to talk to and communicate with. Jesus is quite happy to speak to you also, and he dearly loves you. And but I encourage us all to develop intimacy with Jesus and the Father. Matthew's got a book called 7 Keys to Intimacy with Jesus, and that'll teach you, help you become intimate with Jesus if you follow those keys and put that book into practice. Matthew mentions books, not so he would sell more books, but he mentions books as resources to take you further, to give you further information, to achieve what is being said and what's being talked about. So you can develop intimacy with Jesus by reading 7 Keys to Intimacy with Jesus. I hope you've been encouraged by this message. I hope you choose to draw intimate with God and Jesus. If you read this as a book, I encourage you to go to Amazon and tell Amazon who was your favorite saint. And if it was me, God bless you. I'll read it as Matthew reads his reviews from day to day. He'll read that you liked my interview, and I'll be able to see that. God bless you.